Hello, D-Gens. Welcome to Degenerate Takes. Of course, I am the Brofict one, AJ. Thank you for joining us today, as we do have some news coming in, finally regarding Kevin Durant and the Nets and what's going on there. Shams Charania was reporting that Steve Nash, Joe Tsai, and Sean Marks met with Kevin Durant and Rich Kleiman in Los Angeles on Monday and have decided to move forward with partnership, Nets say. Full contingent in Monday meeting that keeps Kevin Durant, a Brooklyn Net, Durant, business manager Rich Klein, GM Sean Marks, coach Steve Nash, and owner Joe Tsai and Clara Wu Tsai were all present during the deal. So, KD's focusing on basketball. They're focusing on basketball. Interesting wording there with partnership. We'll get into all of that in a little bit. This is all coming after KD demanded a trade. KD came out during the offseason after Kyrie didn't get his re-signed. And he was like, guys, okay, cool. Thank you. I'm done. I'm out of here. Get me out of here. I don't give a shit. I just want out. Here's a list of teams that I would like to go to, but go figure something out. I want out of Brooklyn. I'm done. And then the Nets came out, and they're like, okay, no, we totally get it, KD. You know, yeah, we just signed you for another 4 years and $400 million or whatever. But no, totally, KD. We'll search for a trade. No problem. We'll search for a trade. So Sean Marks and all of them started looking for a trade. And what did they do? What did the Nets do? They made it damn near impossible for any team to get Kevin Durant. Any team, including my Phoenix Suns. My Phoenix Suns were on his list, and usually when a team is on a player's list, something happens and they make it happen. But that was not the case here because the Nets were playing devil. The Nets were playing the devil. They were going to all these teams like, hey, you want KD? That's fine. Sell me your soul. Sell me your soul. I want your entire bench, 2-star players, and a boatload of first-round picks. Or I want your all-star and with this other all-star and all your first-round picks. At one point, they came out and said they wanted Devin Booker, Chris Paul, and it was Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and Mikal Bridges, and then a couple bench players and first-round picks. And that's just for the Suns. That's just for the Suns. They wanted the Suns to give away the entire team, the pieces that we would need to make KD work in Arizona, in Phoenix, just to get this deal done. I'm not saying that the price was too high. That's not what I'm saying at all. I think the Nets were right to ask for how much money they were asking. I'm sorry, not how much, but how much they were asking in trade compensation for Kevin Durant. He's one of the best shooters in the game. He's one of the best scorers in the game. Simple as that. And when he's motivated, even when he's not motivated, and he's on a shit team like the Nets were last year, I mean, yeah, I would want a boatload too, especially signing that massive extension. I understand KD, where he's coming from too. That was a rough season last year. That was such a rough season for the Brooklyn Nets last year. Not only with Kyrie, first of all, not being allowed to play in any games for a while, and then being allowed to step in and only play away games, certain away games too, depending if they were going to Canada or not. Not being able to play at home. James Harden having one of his signature meltdowns and getting his ass traded to the 76ers. And what happens when James Harden's bitch ass gets traded? You get Ben Simmons in there, who hasn't played basketball in a year and a half, citing all of this different stuff. But when in reality, it's starting to come around like he's just a giant pussy who doesn't want to play to get paid. I mean, he's just sitting there collecting money. He's suing the 76ers to get his money that he didn't make last season when he was with them. I mean, so KD saw the writing on the wall. You know, he loves Kyrie. He loves playing with Kyrie, but he's like, listen, you're not going to help me. Ben Simmons sure as hell's not going to help me. Steve Nash can't control this team. Get me out of here. I'm done. I get where KD's coming from. But I will say, shout out to the Nets for being able to weather the storm. And it's not like the Nets did terrible last season. It's really not. And don't get me wrong, it's all because of KD. It's all because of KD. No one else really stepped up. It was all KD. 44 and 38 last season. That's not a bad record. That's not as good as my Suns, but we saw what happened to the Suns in the playoffs, so the record really doesn't really matter for the regular season. It's what you do in the playoffs. I don't know. This is a hard one, especially with what's been said with Kevin Durant trying to get Steve Nash and Sean Marks fired after the Nets tried to get him traded, and they're like, all right, if you don't, fine, you want me to stay? You want to make all these ridiculous requests to get me traded? That's fine. Get these guys out of town. I'm done with them. Because every player they bring in doesn't help me. James Harden didn't help Durant. Ben Simmons sure as hell isn't helping Durant. They didn't really make any other moves during the offseason. So Kevin Durant was done. I get it. I do think Kevin Durant saw the bigger picture here, though. He saw that it was life was just crazy the last couple years. It's been crazy for everyone the last couple years. And so for it to be crazy for this organization where they brought in this big three, and then part of the big three can't play, and then part of the big three gets disgruntled, you're going to have a shitty season. You're going to have a shitty season. But it's interesting. This is not over. I want to make this very clear. This saga is not over by any means necessary. Kevin Durant will not be a net by the end of the season. He just won't. Kevin Durant will not be a net by the end of the season. They are waiting until January when DeAndre Ayton will probably be back on the market. The Suns had to sign his Supermax because that was the only leverage they had to get KD. The only leverage they were willing to give up for KD because Durant has not progressed. DeAndre Ayton has not progressed in the way that they want him to. And so they're holding on to him because they still need a star center, and he's that star center for right now. But come January when he can get traded, I wouldn't be surprised if we see KD move before the All-Star break at this point. But he had to get back into training camp. He has to play. He has to show that he can work with the team so that he doesn't get a bad rap around the league so that people still want him. And don't get me wrong, be who you can afford to be. And Kevin Durant can definitely afford to be a pain in the ass at this point with how well he plays. However, at some point that charm runs out, like it is for James Harden if he can't make it work in the 76ers in Philly. If he can't make it work there, James Harden will probably not get another high-paying contract because he's just been such a pain in the ass. This whole Nets team has been a mess. I don't want to blame Steve Nash. I don't want to blame Sean Marks. I don't want to blame ownership. It's just been a mess. Nothing they really could have predicted either. They couldn't have predicted that Kyrie was going to sit out over half of last season. They couldn't predict that James Harden was going to be a complete pain in the ass and request a trade. They couldn't have predicted that the person they brought in from the James Harden trade was going to be no help whatsoever all season. Not even in the playoffs when they really needed him. He was no help whatsoever. KD, stick it out, brother. Stick it out. It's gonna be a hard first half of the season. Don't get me wrong. But good things come to those who wait. And if you really want to come to the Valley of the Sun, I truly believe January you'll have that opportunity and we'll be able to make a nice little run to the finals. We'll see, though. We'll see. Again, that's me talking as a hopeful Suns fan. But the Suns weren't the only team. There are so many teams out there that are willing to give up a good chunk of their future, a good chunk of what they are right now in order to get KD in and win now. And I respect it. And I think the market for KD after this is only going to go up. Because he's shown now that he can work with management in times of crisis when they don't agree with each other. And I think that only bumps up his stock more. I really do. The Nets aren't going to win the finals next year. I understand people are saying that. The Nets aren't going to win the finals next year. Hell no. Hell no. Not after all of this. And yes, don't get me wrong. Business is business, and you got to do business when business is done. But when you're not even a year into your extension, requesting a trade, trying to get the head coach and GM fired, what does that say about the locker? What does that say to the locker room? Our star player doesn't want to be here. That stuff that lingers around in people's minds, you never really know. I don't think the Nets are going to do well. Nets aren't doing well. I'm gonna say that right now. The Nets are not going to do well. But, yeah, we'll keep an eye on the Kevin Durant story. This is far from over. I do think he'll get traded by January. But, of course, in order to stay up to date with all of our stuff, you do need to like, share, and subscribe down below. And, hey, we do have merch now, so check out our link tree also in the description. That also has all of our social media, such as Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook even. Oh, we got everything. So go ahead, click that link tree down below. Let everyone know. Be a friend, tell a friend. And, yeah, KD, finally a decision made, but it's not the last one of this season for him. I think he's on the move. With that being said, I've been the Bro for 20 AJ, and we'll see you next time on Degenerate Takes.